welcome to everyone who is joining us today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be where you are. I'm glad you've chosen to spend this next 45 minutes or so with us. Joining the A Taste of SPI webinar series with our special guests today, Bridget Mullins and Melina Chan, who will be offering at this year's Summer Peacebuilding Institute a course titled Emergent Facilitation for a Thriving World, Co-Creating Ecological and Social Change. And I'm so pleased that they'll be joining us today and sharing about their upcoming course at the Summer Peacebuilding Institute. A little bit about today's webinar. This A Taste of SPI series is a free webinar series designed to give you a preview of the Summer Peacebuilding Institute experience. So these short and interactive sessions offer a chance to sample our courses, to meet with the instructors, and to engage with the questions and practices and approaches to learning that define both the Summer Peacebuilding Institute and as well as Bridget and Melina's work here in our course, Emergent Facilitation for a Thriving World. So whether you're here for the first time and first hearing about SPI, we're so thankful that you can experience this, and whether you're returning to SPI for the 10th time, perhaps this course will pique your interest enough and you'll select it from one of the many courses we're offering this summer. Before I welcome our guests onto the stage today, I'm going to share with you a short video that provides a bit of a sense of the SPI vibe and energy and what it means to be in community together in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia every summer. So this following video is about 3 minutes long, and when it's done, I will welcome our guests to the stage as well.
Learning and networking with each other to share stories and skills and to working with each other.
My apologies, I'm going to start this from the beginning and let you watch it through.
So to me, SPI is a place where people from all around the world can come together who are interested in learning and networking with each other to share stories and skills and to come together and learn about how to build peace in our communities, in ourselves, our families, and in systems of injustice.
It's just powerful. It is really powerful to be in a place where people ultimately share the same goal of a more just and peaceful world. That's a really powerful thing to be a part of.
When you come to FPI, if you're a practitioner, regardless of where you're from and regardless of sort of what your work includes, you feel like you're not alone. Participants will say, this is my place, this is my people, because people understand what I'm talking about. People understand me and I don't have to explain. And so this idea of, we don't share everything, we don't share a language even often, but when we're talking about conflict, we're talking about trying to make change happen in constructive ways and in positive ways.
Why I find SPI valuable is that I get to see multiple perspectives when I come here. I get to see people from other countries that I don't see in my normal life. And I also get to experience the curriculum of very, very different ways of dealing in the world, like the peace building, the conflict analysis, and have conversations that I don't have in my day-to-day life as a faculty member.
There aren't so many places where we get to really connect, reflect, get a little more honest with ourselves, maybe learn more from each other than we can in a typical academic or even a typical public kind of engagement situation.
There's a lot more to SPI than just the courses. First of all, it attracts really fantastic people who are looking to do good in the world and who are looking to build community.
Everybody you meet on the road of EMU, the Eastern Mennonite University, is so friendly. I tell you, this place reminds me of Africa. This place reminds me of my community. Eastern Mennonite University is a place that I have been able to bond with several people.
I experienced a tremendous sense of welcome, not just when I arrived, but throughout my time here. I felt like I was loved before I came here, that the space, that the courses, that the care materials were all prepared for me, for this learning community in a very intentional, loving way.
Don't miss out. You have to come. It is truly a unique place. It is an incubator, it is a networking space, and there's a lot that we learn and grow together here.
All right. Thank you again for joining us. I hope you enjoyed a bit of that preview of what it feels like to be at the Summer Peacebuilding Institute. And without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the stage our special guest hosts and our instructors for this course, Bridget and Mel. Wonderful to see both of you today. Thank you for joining us and offering us a bit of preview of what you're envisioning and imagining this summer. So Bridget and Mel will be offering the course Emergent Facilitation for a Thriving World, Co-Creating Ecological and Social Change. And this is going to run from May 28th to June 5th at this year's Summer Peacebuilding Institute. So we'll share more information on how to get connected and how to register as we go. And as questions arise for anyone who's present, please use that comment section and we will engage with you. We'll answer those questions as they come. And we look forward to hearing from you. So Bridget and Mel, thank you. And I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Corey. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So nice to be here with you today, whether you're tuning in live or whether you're watching this video back on the Institute's YouTube channel. We are so glad you're here. We're going to be taking a little bit of time today to speak about the course that we're offering in the Summer Peacebuilding Institute coming up in a few months. And let's get started with just introducing ourselves a little bit. As we're introducing ourselves, we also invite that you do the same. So we would really love to hear from you. Say hello in the comments section. Feel free to share where it is in the world that you are joining us from today. And something we thought would be really nice to hear from you all on is like if you would be up for sharing a place in nature where you feel really at home, then that will also help bring some color inside the room too. So that'd be great. So anyway, let me get started. My name is Melina Chan. You can call me Mel. And I'm dialing in this morning to a very beautiful sunrise behind my laptop in Victoria, Australia. So the traditional lands that I'm calling in from the Jara country of the Dja Dja Wurrung people. And one of the things that we do in Australia is just take a moment to acknowledge the elders of the Indigenous custodians of this land, past, present, and emerging. One of the things that has been really in focus for us more recently is about almost 2 months ago now, we had some big bushfires sweeping through the region. And our local mountain, Mount Alexander, which the Indigenous name for which is Lianuk, burned on those days. And since then, you know, we have really been not only just working hard on sort of recovery and working to get back to normal life, but also listening to one another more deeply and learning about the sort of various significances of that mountain to the Dja Dja Wurrung people, and how burning is sort of part of the natural custodianship and cycles, and how, you know, what is happening these days are similar and different to some of those traditional practices. I am a designer and facilitator by trade. I really, really enjoy cultivating deep and enriching experiences for groups to kind of carve their own path. Usually they're on a journey either together or separately to create change for a better world. So I just am so honored that I get to do this sort of work. I've been lucky to work kind of in a global capacity, quite a lot in Southeast Asia, working with young people and vocational training, and social enterprise and cultural heritage. And more recently, I've been working in place here in Castlemaine in Australia, really looking at, what is possible when we put roots locally right where we are, and where we work with communities and institutions to sort of look at what maybe some of the bigger things we're facing in the world at the moment, what that looks and feels like right here at home, and what we can do to kind of support one another through that. So pleased to be here with you, and I'll pass across to Bridget to introduce herself.
Thanks, Mel. Hello, everyone. It's great to be in this space with you and have a chance to share about the course and be with one of my favorite humans and collaborators in the world, Mel Chan, and maybe I'll talk about how we, spanning the United States and Australia, have come into practice together. I am calling in today from Seattle in the Pacific Northwest. I want to honor the Coast Salish peoples who have and are and will continue to steward these lands. I have the honor to be in relationship and partnership with many of them through the work that I'm doing here, which I'll talk a little bit more about. I kind of felt called to trace back to some of my earliest origins in connection to this kind of work. And as I was reflecting on that, what kept coming up for me was the way in which growing up in the arts and doing theater was such a huge part of both my family shaping and my place of origin shaping. And as part of that, I really had these early experiences of the magic of an ensemble, of how to create in a team, of how to create spaces of rehearsal and practice where each person kind of comes in touch with their own capacity and expression in a way that contributes to creating something beautiful collectively. So I feel in my life, I was always holding this thread of like love for the arts and creating, and at the same time, like a heart really attuned to suffering and a desire to be participant in creating spaces of more healing and justice and thriving for people. So that led me into the space of facilitation, which I've been doing for the past 15 years, and a lot of different contexts and shapes that it has taken, working with youth, working in experience and education design, working with people experiencing incarceration or migrant farm workers, working with communities around the world, collaboratives and collectives and communities of practice that I have found along the way. One of those being Designing Systems Innovation Leadership Global and the Inspiral Network that brought Mel and I into relationship and to practice together. And through all of that, through finding like my family of dreamers and doers and people like really experimenting on the edges of like how we come together, how we are as humans together, that like creates more possibilities. All of that really allowed me to, as Joanna Macy says, start to honor my pain for the world and like really be with my heart in that space in a way that I could like be with the world as it is. And I feel like that is the work that led me so much more into the climate space, into environment, which is where I find myself now in the Pacific Northwest. I work for an environmental facilitation firm. So regularly facilitating with federal, state, local, and tribal governments and communities, and also very much steeped in and part of mutual solidarity networks and grassroots groups and community. So as I come into this space and this course, I feel like those are some of the realities and tensions that I hold, sort of working in the big policy and regulatory frameworks space, and also with like the feel of community and culture and mutual support and aid. All right. How's that feel for an introduction?
I was just listening to you, Bridget, and just reflecting on how expansive this work feels. You know, every time we sort of dip into it, I always talk about, you know, being a facilitator or being a designer. And, you know, when you ask a group of people who here is a designer, and then you're like, you know, maybe some people, but not everyone will pop up their hands. But if you ask, who's ever needed to figure out like what to have for dinner with a group of people who happen to be around the house at the time, you know, what are some of the things that you've needed to think about, and what's happened? How has that unfolded? And yeah, I was just reflecting on from those moments of what to have to dinner right through to being able to be with the pain that you have for the world, and how that can accompany you as you show up in facilitating groups, tackling big questions or really facing big challenges. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and big. It's big.
Yeah. And I want to honor some of the folks that I see we have in our virtual space. Some people very dear to my heart who are in here and sharing about the rich forests and waters in Appalachia homeland, Red Rocks, homes in Sedona, Arizona, favorite places on the ocean, Stinson Beach, California. So I'm just feeling the presence of people listening and those places as they start to come into our space. Feels like a good.
What about for you?
What about for me?
Like a place in nature that makes you feel at home.
Well, I'll share that moving out to the Pacific Northwest, where I've been for a year and a half, just like really starting to come into connection with the Puget Sound and just like the blue of the waters, the Olympic mountains, their like majestic gaze, the marine life that surrounds this place has been really, really precious and nourishing to me in my transition here. What about you, Mel?
One of the things that I realized I missed when I lived in Cambodia for an extended period of time was the color palette of the Australian bush. You know, we have like a lot of eucalyptus, like acacia style trees that are like a dusty gray green and just sort of a lot of red earth. You know, some people describe it as though the whole landscape has been washed in a muddy river. So everything is like a little bit muted and dusty looking. But I just noticed that my eyes were just so hungry for those colors, and I would really notice whenever I would come home, and just be able to be amongst those landscapes. It's something that my whole system sort of relaxed. Just being able to see the colors, which was really interesting, and I feel very lucky to be a little bit more nestled and accessible to the bush here in Castlemaine these days.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Should we turn ourselves toward talking a bit about the course?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So if Corey, you could bring up that first slide. We wanted to start just by giving a glimpse into what we feel will be the arc of the journey, knowing that a key piece of emergent facilitation is really working with people's contexts and what's alive and what they're bringing. So this is bound to change, but these are some of the arcs, the beats in the overarching journey that we hope to have and that we hope to support us in our learning together. So the first day, gathering at the edge, taking the time to arrive in relationship to self, each other, and place think this will be a lot of unearthing of like what's alive in us. What are the questions that we're holding as we come together in this work, in this topic? Roots and purpose. So starting to turn together towards emergent design and like, how do we craft beautiful invitations that call people into full participation? We'll definitely be spending some time in the composting space. So creating a holding for us as a course, as a cohort, to tap into our grief, to tap into what it means to facilitate and hold kind of like the whole spectrum of emotions around ecological loss, hope, work, as well as conflict that inevitably shows up in ourselves and groups and spaces when we're working in these ways. Sensing the larger field. So paying some attention to like, how do complex systems change? How do we facilitate with an attention to the whole? So bringing in some of like warm data labs and open space technology and what else, Mel, in here?
Oh, I really like the discovery action dialogue where we get to realize how much wisdom we already know about a topic or a question that is like really plaguing us.
Yes, absolutely. All right, moving to the next. The next couple of days are really around adaptive response. We have so many collaborators and folks in the field who are working on different things, climate adaptation games, and Mel's like really local work in Castle, Maine around bushfires and kind of community organizing. So we want to have ample time together to like tap into some of these live experiences and knowledges that are happening, to zoom in some people and collaborators around the world to hear their stories and what they're up to, and also to be in practice together around like designing and facilitating offerings that we have for the group. So a key piece that will be part of the course will be working in pods and having a pod be part of your experience. And Mel, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I love this so much. So a pod is essentially like a small group that accompanies one another throughout any kind of journey. So, like I kind of think about it as a book club where you get to design all of the details. You together design your purpose, you design how it is that you want to be in space together and what you want to bring. You design how long that's going to be for, and when you're going to look at that design again, or when you're going to sunset that pattern of gathering. And one of the things that I think is really, really beautiful about it is it offers a space for kind of deeper diving and deeper accompaniment into the spaces that we each bring. And with a lot of our practices, some of the philosophies behind them are things like the world is our classroom. We don't need to draw on technical knowledge or authority from on high to sort of be able to get going and know what is ripe to do next. That sort of ideas in line with this is we sort of have everything that we need in the room. So when in your pods, you're practicing maybe some peer coaching practices or those sorts of activities, one of the things that I always notice is how much I'm enriched by and how much I learn from supporting someone else with their case study or with the challenge that they're facing. And so, the pod will be a small group within the broader class that will sort of accompany you throughout your learning journey. And sometimes, those pods decide to kind of stay on beyond their natural container. So one of the pods that I am in has been going now. We are just entering our 6th year. And so we were four people based in 4 different countries and have accompanied one another through kind of many life changes, gathering fortnightly over Zoom, which is kind of our most normal rhythm, but also meeting up for in-person retreats or facilitating virtual retreats for ourselves as a group, navigating career changes and, moving house and breakups and big things. So anyway, really excited for the pods.
Yeah, it was really well said. And I love how you brought in just those big pieces of the world is our classroom and we have everything that we need. And so much about this course, I think, will be being in contact with that and kind of the richness of peer learning. And myself, as someone who's a graduate of CJP, who's been able to participate in SPI, both when I was a student and in the years since, that's just like such a felt sense that I have of the experience writ large, of like the beauty of being in connection and contact with people who share similar questions that they're holding and wisdom and experience that it can inform each other. So Corey, if you go to the next, we have 2 slides that are a bit of a mood board of the influences, bodies of knowledge, teachers, mentors that we are bringing into the course. So you'll see here the work of Joanna Macy, the space of warm data, emergent strategy, open space technology. Go to the next. Our friends who are the creators of the adaptation game, the MIWI systems framework that comes from our community of practice at DSIL, the inner development goals, Theory U. There's just like all of this wealth of resources and methods and practices that we'll be weaving in and calling upon to help structure our time to teach you different methods and tools that you can carry on into your work and into your communities, and to unleash all of the intelligence that's in the room. Mel, anything else you want to say about this mood board spread?
I think one of the things that I want to say is like what I found is that a lot of these practices that we use have really big bodies of work and communities and often lineage behind them. So they're not, originated necessarily in the form that they are now. And as a very kind of practical, hands-on and kinetic learner, I really love the fact that I can see this mood board and be in touch with like all of the activities or the tone or the dialogue that comes along with these practices, as well as knowing that there is sort of a more theoretical and conceptual body of knowledge that sort of sits behind too.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. And maybe what also feels like it's not here is in terms of like some of the feel of the course. I mean, this is about like eco-cultural and eco-social work. And so we intend to be very connected to that in the space of these 7 days and like want to walk away from this experience, like, yes, having been stretched and challenged and gotten into like juicy conversations and work together, and also like really well held and nourished like somatically through spending time outside, through going on walk and talks, through dancing together, through having sit spots in nature be like part of our anchor throughout the course. So just wanted to name that in terms of like how we imagine tending to many parts of our intelligence in the course, including our body and its well-being and its nurturing, and our hearts too, together.
Yeah, nice. I'm one of the things that kind of the course really centers around is for folks to be able to bring what is alive for them, like what is happening on those me, we, and systems levels. And so one of the things that we thought it might be good to do is to ask folks in the room about something that is alive in their world at the moment, if it is at the me level, if it's at the we, the organization or the community level, or something, you know, bigger at the systems level that they are currently grappling with. And yeah, I'd invite you to pop down and share whatever feels comfortable for you to share in the little comments thread. And thank you for typing that out for me, Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I thought that we also could also hear a little bit more about what your world is looking and feeling like at the moment, Bridget. What's something in your field that is really alive for you?
Well, the first thing that comes up for me is I named at the beginning that I'm working with a lot of public agencies, kind of federal, state, local actors. And as when it comes to the space of design and facilitation, one of the first impulses that I always notice is like, what's the agenda? What are the topics? And what are we going to do? And I really understand like where that comes from. And what I'm kind of constantly like coaching and working on inviting is like, how do we tune into, as the starting point, like, how do we want this group to feel together? When they walk out of the room, what do we want the connection to be like? What are like some of the feeling or culture words that come to mind, like energized, motivated, or deeply seen and heard, or a clear sense of what's next and my role in it? Like all of those words and unearthing those together, I feel like are the strongest design anchors that give us like clues and hints of like, okay, how can we structure the space that's gonna enable that? What questions would we ask if we really wanted that to be the outcome of our gathering? And it's just like such a different way of orienting to how we create space and getting out of some of those like old habits that have the effect of like continuously sort of over controlling and really like centering this in a way that I feel like often like leaves that feeling of something missing that like maybe we didn't even know that we wanted. But people's like well-being and capacity is such a huge part of this conversation, like especially working in the world right now around ecological loss. And so like more and more and more, we have to be attending to well-being and capacity and belonging and connection at the heart of design. What about for you?
Yeah, well, I've got two follow-ups for you.
Okay.
I like want to ask about what are a couple of the biggest barriers that you face in being able to create that, you know, in the fields that you work in?
It's a great question. One of the biggest ones is trust. When you're working across power, position, big resource discrepancies, historical harm.
Yeah.
It's a big piece to be paying attention to and to be paying attention to like moving at the speed of trust and how to orient around that well. I think that for many of the public agencies, because of the way that like community engagement has been mandated or like the shapes that it has taken in the past, there's also a lot of like fear of the public, because of like all of like the relational rupture that has happened. And so like when that fear comes on board, there's like a desire to control and to control the space of participation. So those are some of the biggest barriers present, for sure.
Yeah. Yep, they're big enough.
Yep.
Trust and the need to control. They're pretty big. They're pretty big. I wanted to ask, like a moment where you felt like you were able to sort of both encounter but like navigate through some of those barriers and, achieve some of those more wholly present and well-paced and connective sort of spaces in that context. Yeah, like how was that made possible? Is there any hints that you can give us into the secret sauce of how this happens?
Yeah, great question again. There is or was someone on the call who's involved in one of the examples that's coming to mind, working in a tribal context and community through one of like the big energy utility purveyors in our region, who is kind of mandated in a sense to be better centering community decision-making power in the design of clean energy solutions. And so the utility had a lot of thoughts around what that might look like. And, really like driving toward the outcome of the project. And as we got into the space of like really working and being in community and conversation, and when you use methods that actually like bring people's voices in and center listening to people, oftentimes what you thought the outcome might be shifts. And in this case, I think there's a much longer story to be told, but being able on the one hand to like stay with the people working at the utility in those moments of like where contraction or fear would happen, to like bring them into how this like way of being and working is actually leads to more powerful, sustainable outcomes, because you're centering people's voices who have the most experience and knowledge at hand in the work. And then also like in the space of working together, the reminder that like there's all of this like nonlinear stuff that is happening when you like bring people into these kind of processes, that it's not just about like you and your work and your outcome. So like trusting in like the many and multiple ways that those conversations build on each other, just through the act of like helping people come in to listen to each other, to create together, and to be in dialogue. I'm being a little vague here, just out of like, thinking live of like how much detail to share or not. But yeah, it's definitely one of the spaces and experiences that comes to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely sounds powerful. If I think about our utility providers here and getting them to open up a bit. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, was there anything alive for you that you wanted to bring?
My goodness, something I'm grappling with at the moment. Where do I even begin? Yeah, I think there is like a kernel, like one of the central grapples that I have at the moment is around enoughness. And I see that occurring at the me and the we and the systems level. One of the ways in which it's showing up in my work at the moment is I'm doing a broader body of work, like hosting a learning community around economic systems transformation towards like a well-being and regenerative economy. And so we've got like a lot of folks who are wearing different hats that we're bringing together to learn from one another and support one another in that space. And when it kind of comes to enoughness, like what I've noticed is like the desire to always cram more in or always put on another hat. Like, are we on 2 boards and, volunteer for 4 different organizations and like say yes to, an emergent opportunity to help out in another spot. So one of the real grapples with that learning circle that we journeyed with was almost kind of like the dilution and the stretch and the fatigue that can come from like trying to do so much and trying to be so much. Yeah, and how busy and messy also that can make the space. We had a learning circle of about 20 people, but everybody was like wearing 5 to 8 hats, and like that's a kind of a lot. That's a lot to navigate.
What are some of the ways that you're exploring working with that, being with that?
Like a tagline that we return to often is like, what would it look like for us to pursue this at the speed of well-being, at the speed of joy? And so we've got people kind of ideating together and co-creating their solutions and building out plans and those sorts of things. And at the point of review, inviting folks to really take a pause to be like, thinking through the resourcing and the pacing, what else is happening in our context at the moment. What does it really look like to pursue something like this at the pace of well-being? And sometimes that's to not do a thing. It's to do less. A sort of aspiration I had for this circle is for us to always be able to have a conversation about like, what are you stopping? Like, what are you taking off your plate? What are you stopping doing? And yeah, it's not natural to us. It's a stretch.
Yeah, it's not, and it's one of the best questions to ask. And I think I feel it and see it being, like so needed right now. What can we prune? What can we compost? What can we actively and stop so that all of this can move more at the speed of well-being and capacity? Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, what a juicy tension here to be navigating.
Thank you for sharing. One of the things that comes up for me in that tension is like our ability to be able to hold multiple truths and it not be one or the other, but a sort of both and I can really see, like Catherine, in that comment that you've added, that you are really in touch with, and you really are in touch with, and you really experience those multiple truths. That sometimes those truths are not compatible, sometimes those truths are in tension, sometimes they're kind of directly in conflict with one another. And how do we sort of represent that really well and coherently, I suppose, in something that, in a glimpse, like a case study that we might be making.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's any questions that are alive for people who are tuned in about the course or otherwise that we haven't been able to speak to yet. And I know that might just give people some time if there's anything there. Mel, maybe we should talk just a little bit about how are we going to be designing and facilitating across geographies?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a real and evolving challenge for me, really, since COVID started, in what does this work look like? And there's just something so beautiful and precious about the immersive space. So I'm really, really kind of excited for that May 28th to June 5th sort of immersive format. And it also happens that I myself am not able to join the immersion in person in this case, which is both a bummer on one hand and also like offers us a fantastic opportunity to create something, very much like using the conditions of the world right now. So yeah, thinking through what are the ways in which technology can enable and host this work, as well as in-person work. What is possible, you know, in each different context, and how we're bringing them there.
Yeah, it feels so real and true for me that within the space of design and facilitation writ large, I, as a practitioner, just like so often have the feeling of like, I do not want to be doing this alone, speaking towards like well-being and capacity. And it felt so right and enriching to be in a relationship with each other, to be co-creating this space, this course, and to, as you said, like work with the realities of our world right now, which is like sometimes that like fully in person is possible and sometimes it's not. And I think, you know, more and more we're seeing this blending of all of that. So I'm really excited actually to have it as a creative design opportunity to be playing with integration of technology into our space, to be playing with how that shapes our roles on the course in supporting pods and coaching opportunities, and presencing the course in different ways through that kind of spread. Yeah, and just to be, you know, feeling into the local, global web throughout in a particular way, both through you and some of the other people I think we envision calling in.
Yeah, what does in-person make possible? Like, what does technology make possible for this course? I'm really excited about some of the folks we're going to be inviting in, that sort of global chosen family of practitioners that we get to tap into too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling like almost arrival at a completion here.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, yeah, I'm just wondering if like there's anything alive for us to share as a way of like coming to an end. Anything that hasn't been said, or that we really want to leave this space having named. Oh, and we also have a question too.
Yeah, let's jump on that question for sure. Let's get it up on the screen. Thanks so much for making the space. I'm curious about expectations for participants of the course, specifically prior experience in climate justice work. Do you need to have deep experience? Can this be a space to dip into this work more?
This is fully a space to dip into this work more, is the short answer. No prior experience is needed in climate justice work, in facilitation, in process design. We really want this to be a space to like call people in wherever you're at. And I imagine that there's like a lot more experience and wisdom too, that maybe even is at the forefront of when you think about it as like a role or something that you're doing in a particular way. Yeah, we're all place-based people. And as Mel said at the very beginning, in some ways, like we all have facilitation and design experience as well. So the space is welcome to all. Come in as you are with what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, Bridget and Mel, if you don't mind me joining you, as I heard you mention, yeah, the natural sense of reaching a perfect stopping point for our time together.
Mm-hmm.
Offer some appreciation for the clear way that you guys both bring your energy and care to this work. I've been able to sense it in this space today, whether virtually to the West Coast or far in the other direction, halfway around the world. Now, I really appreciate what you guys have both offered us today. And wow, I look forward to what that will be like for a number of days together intensively in the summer.
Thank you, Corey. It's been wonderful to be here, to be invited to share in the SPI experience. And yeah, to those listening, I guess feel free to reach out to CJP, SPI, and through them to us. Happy to be in more conversation beyond what's been shared here.
Indeed. And just as Bridget said, if anyone is interested in getting some further information or have questions that come up tonight as you go to sleep and think about this webinar and realize that you've got a new question that's jumping up at you, feel free to reach out to us at spi@emu.edu. I've dropped that email address in the chat here, and we'll make sure those conversations get answered either by us or by Bridget or by Mel. You can scan the QR code on the top of the screen if you'd like to go to our website and read more or learn more about this course and other courses at SPI. Or if you're ready to register and sign up and would love to join us, we would love to have you. So thank you all for watching today or at any time in the future as you might be viewing this. And thank you once again, Bridget and Mel, for joining us today and offering your wisdom, your insight, your care, and the really good energy that you've shared with us.
Thanks so much, Corey. Really, yeah, really looking forward to being in a global community of practice here. Yeah. I can already tell how rich a space it is. So really appreciate you creating this time for us.
Wonderful. I'm happy to do it. All right. We will see all of you again soon, hopefully in the summer or in any way in this world. We will be in touch.